There's breaking news out of Columbus, Ohio. Charges filed in the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe on the eve of their funerals. Monique Tepe's ex-husband is in custody for the murders. I have the details. Welcome to this breaking edition of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. The murders of Spencer Tepe and his beautiful wife, Monique Tepe, shattered their families. The parents of two young children, ages 1 and 4, were shot to death in their home in a downtown Columbus neighborhood in the middle of the night as those little children slept. It happened in the early morning hours of December 30th, police say between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. The story sent shockwaves across the state of Ohio and the country. A dentist and his stay-at-home wife murdered, likely in their sleep, found shot to death in their bedroom. Now, more than a week after the murders, Monique Tepe's ex-husband is in custody. Dr. Michael McKee is a vascular surgeon, and he was married to Monique for a short time in 2015, and they divorced using a private judge. But it's my understanding that Michael McKee didn't want to let go, despite the marriage lasting just a short time. The affidavit in support of the murder charges states, on December 30th, 2025 at 9:57 a.m., Columbus patrol officers were dispatched to on a check on the well-being of a Dr. Spencer Tepe who had not shown up to work. Officers arrived and found Dr. Tepe and his wife, Monique Tepe, deceased inside, suffering from gunshot wounds. Two minor children were found inside the home unharmed. Columbus Fire Medic number 7 responded and pronounced both victims deceased at 10:11 a.m. Columbus Police Homicide Unit Team 2 was advised, responded, and initiated an investigation. During the subsequent investigation, detectives were able to identify a suspect through neighborhood video surveillance. The suspect was tracked to a vehicle which arrived just prior to the homicides and left shortly after the homicides. Detectives were able to identify this vehicle further and link it to Michael McKee. Detectives located the vehicle in Rockford, Illinois, and found evidence of McKee in possession of the vehicle prior to and after the homicides. Now, take a look at this surveillance video. Columbus police put this out earlier this week, asking for anybody who recognized the person in this video to call them. It's very likely that Columbus police believe the man walking down the street in an alleyway in the area of the Tepe home, that they believe that this is Michael McKee. Michael McKee right now is in custody in a jail in Rockford, Illinois. It's the Winnebago County Jail. He will have to be extradited here to Ohio to face these murder charges. It's an absolutely heartbreaking case. The young children of Monique and Spencer Tepe, they were crying when friends of the couple were at the home. They arrived to check on this young, beautiful couple, wondering where they were after Spencer Tepe did not show up for work, and they made this gruesome discovery that they had been murdered. The Tepes will be laid to rest on Sunday. And so Law&Crime will continue to follow this case and bring you any new information as the case unfolds.
Let's get to the latest on this case that we have been following closely out of Ohio, the murders of Spencer Tepe and his wife, Monique Tepe. Now, when it comes to how much information police give out to the public during an investigation like this, especially an investigation as public as this one is making national news. You really can only speculate with what the PR strategy is for police, why they're giving out certain pieces of information, why they aren't answering certain questions from journalists. Of course, the biggest question is, how close are they to catching a killer? It appears at this point only those on the inside, the people in the department, know the answer to that question. Now, this is the new body cam video that the city of Columbus just sent to us here at Law&Crime, and it shows the officer who was dispatched to make a welfare check at Spencer Tepe's home after he didn't show up for work at his dental office. And that officer, he did check out the property, he knocks on the door, didn't see anything left. The only issue is, according to the chief of police, he went to the wrong address. This was at roughly 9:30 in the morning, about 20 to 30 minutes after the first phone call was made by Spencer Tepe's boss, saying that that something just didn't feel right because he didn't show up for work. It would be roughly another half hour until a 911 caller then discovers what he says is Spencer Tepe's body in the home of the couple on December 30th. More than a week into trying to find the person who killed Spencer and Monique in their home while their kids were there on December 30th, a lot of it is still a mystery. But the Columbus police chief did make some public comments, and from what we heard, she didn't directly say whether the public is still at risk. Now, what might that tell us about where police are in this investigation? We're going to talk about that, and we'll talk about what the chief reportedly said about the voice you hear in this call.
Hello?
Hi, this is 911. We just got a hang-up call. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're crying. Do you need police, paramedics, or anything?
No, I'm okay. I promise. I'm just emotional.
So that was a 911 call that was first obtained by Fox News Digital, and it claimed that this call was made in April at 2:45 in the morning on a Tuesday from the Tepe's address. Now, it is a woman who said that she had a disagreement with, quote, her man.
Okay. I don't need
Okay.
nothing.
Well, can I ask what had you call 911 in the first place? Like, were you having an argument with
Me and my
somebody?
man got into it, but I'm okay. I promise.
Did anything ever get physical?
No.
You guys were just arguing, nobody hit each other?
Yes.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I have the information
Okay.
here. I can go ahead and tell the officers to cancel hitting over to your address there.
Yes.
If
Yes,
anything
I'm
changes,
sorry.
call us back.
Okay.
So the chief confirmed to local media outlets what Spencer's brother-in-law told us here at Law&Crime this week, and that is the female voice you hear on that call, that is not Monique Tepe's voice. But the chief is also telling local media outlets a little bit more context as to where that call may have been coming from and whether this call could be important to the investigation. Now, the biggest piece of information that we do have at this point when it comes to this investigation and what's been given out to the public by police, it's this video. It's the person of interest walking down an alley behind Spencer and Monique's home in the early hours of December 30th. Police are continuing to call out to the public to see if anyone has more video from a time frame of between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning on December 30th. That is believed to be the time that police think that Spencer and Monique were killed. Now, you can see in the video that they have put out, even though it's grainy, there could be some clues to take away because you see that this person, it appears to be a male. They're wearing gray pants, black shoes, a black coat, and they're walking down this alley in the middle of the night. This is a Tuesday morning this happened. Temperatures were in the 20s. This was the day before New Year's Eve. Now, you can see that this person of interest, they're not looking at the camera, and maybe that's on purpose. This alleyway is one that you can drive down. It gives access to the detached garages behind the townhomes where Spencer and Monique lived. And this is a drone shot from the Tepe's wedding video. It was shot by Spencer's brother-in-law, and you can see the back alley and these fairly new-looking townhomes all in a row. And again, the Tepes lived in one of those homes. Now, the person of interest, they keep their head down. They don't look up. It's unclear if they know that there are cameras in the back of these homes or maybe on garages as they walk down the street. You do see that in that person of interest video. It's a Nest camera. So this isn't like an official police camera that's out there, but the type of thing that somebody puts on the back of their home if they're maybe concerned about someone trying to break into their garage or someone going through their trash. Now, this person of interest also, they have some mannerisms that you hope that someone watching this video would notice. It looks like they might be pigeon-toed. Police are emphasizing that, again, this is a person of interest. They don't know if this is the killer, if this is the person that they're looking for. The police chief did tell local media that this is really just a person who is in the area at the time where they are really focusing their investigation. This person may just be a person walking down the street after maybe spending time at a bar that closed late on a week where a lot of people were off work because of the holidays. We don't know, but you do consider the circumstances. This is suspicious. And also, we haven't heard if anyone has seen this video. Maybe they recognize that it is them walking down the alley. Maybe they were heading home from a bar or something like that. And yet, days after this video, which is being plastered on the news and on the internet, no one's come forward saying, hey, that was me. It's a big misunderstanding. I'm not the person you're looking for. So still at this point, that is the person of interest that police really want to talk to in this investigation. Now, I do want to talk about a couple new pieces of information that we did learn from these local news interviews that the chief of police in Columbus gave to media outlets in Ohio. Let's get you caught up, though, on where the investigation is, at least at this point. So up until the day that they were killed, Spencer and Monique Tepe, this is a couple that appeared to be living the lives that a lot of people dream of having. They're a young couple, young family. They're in a great home, a couple that was surrounded by people who love them. Their family has said that the Tepes, they loved having people over to their house. They were the kind of people who just loved bringing people together. This is their wedding video. It was shot in 2021 on what appears to be the steps of the home where they were found dead, this townhome in Ohio. Now, the couple had 2 kids, and those kids' ages 4 and 1 years old. Of course, in this story, there is no real good news because 2 people lost their lives. These 2 children lost their parents, but the children were unharmed when their parents were killed. The couple also had a dog. It's a golden doodle, and that dog was unharmed as well. And the children and the animal, they are now with Tepe family members as police continue this investigation. Now, Spencer had a great job. It was a job that he appears he really loved as well. He was a dentist, and he was working at an office in Athens, Ohio. And man, does it seem like he had a heck of a commute to the office, because that's roughly 75 miles from Columbus. His bio at his dental office says that he graduated from Ohio State in 2017. He had a doctor of dental surgery degree. He loved work, but outside of work, he loved the Ohio State Buckeyes. He loved the Cincinnati Bengals. That's where he grew up. And he also loved playing golf, traveling, and spending time with his family. Now, Spencer was married to Monique Tepe. There's an obituary that just went live. It's a joint obituary honoring both of them. And it reads that Monique grew up in Worthington, Ohio. That's a suburb north of Columbus. She grew up playing soccer. She was a runner. And like her husband, she was a graduate of Ohio State. And that's where she earned her master's in early childhood education. And while she was in school, she worked at a daycare. And the obit reads that she was now a stay-at-home mom who is known for her bright smile, infectious laugh, caring heart, and bubbly personality. The obituary says that Spencer and Monique, they were the life of the party. The couple met online, then they get married in December 2020. You know, it is just, as we've been covering this story, just so hard to comprehend how this could happen, because this was a couple. It just keeps sticking out to me just how loved this couple was for their generosity. They had this growing family, and they lose their lives like this. And you can also tell that so many people loved them just by the amount of 911 calls that were made out of concern when Spencer did not show up for work.
Columbus Police, Tech 107.
Yes, I would like to ask for a wellness check on an individual at their home.
So if you've been following this story with us, you know that these 911 calls that were made on December 30th, they started around 9 o'clock in the morning. And this is when Spencer didn't show up for work. The Columbus police chief did give an important piece of information, though, related to the response to these 911 calls. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment.
This individual, Spencer, works with me, and he did not show up to work this morning, and we cannot get a hold of him or his family.
He didn't show up to work?
Correct.
Okay. Does he have medical problems or?
No, and he's been reliable, and we cannot get in touch with him, his wife, his family, anybody that lives in that house.
Okay. So
There's
you're
2
in
kids in the
Florida.
home. I'm in Florida. I own the business. I was informed by my employees that he was not at work, and he runs the office.
So the first call that came in was from Spencer's boss. He told the dispatcher that he was on vacation in Florida, and he started getting calls from Spencer's coworkers because Dr. Tepe didn't show up.
Have you guys received anything else, like calls about him or like a car accident or anything like that?
No, sometimes people just don't show up to work. I mean, maybe he's sick, I don't know.
Now, as much as the dispatcher says, hey, it's common for people not to show up, maybe they overslept, maybe they're sick, Spencer's boss is just so adamant and concerned on this call that Spencer is just not the type of person who is a no-show at work and doesn't tell anyone.
I just know that he is the most, like, he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. And I just don't know how else to say this. Like, we're very, very concerned because this is very out of character. And we can't get in touch with his wife, which is probably the more concerning thing.
About 20 minutes later, at 9:22, an officer arrived on scene, but no one answered at the couple's home. Now, this is the part of the story where we just got some major context that we're about to talk about. Concerned friends of the Tepes then go to the couple's house, and they say that they heard the children of the Tepes inside the home. So this is around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, what's the emergency there, police or medical?
Maybe both, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of doing the
We
wellness.
already had a call out there. They knocked on the front door and back door multiple times, and there was no answer.
Yeah, no answer. I can hear kids inside, and I swear I think I heard one yell, but we can't get in. At this point, I don't know if I need to break the door in or just get in the house or what. So.
Okay, were you out there when the police was out there?
I wasn't. I just got here about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, all right, well, we'll send them back out to you.
Then you get another call from Spencer's work.
Our boss did not report to work. We haven't been able to get a hold of him for 3 hours. We are on site, and we can hear
Okay,
kids
I
inside.
just talked to somebody there.
Okay, I'm just making sure somebody called.
5 minutes later, there is another phone call. And this is the phone call where a friend says that they see Spencer Tepe's body.
We've got several calls on that. What's changed since the last person I talked to?
There's a body. There's
There's a body inside?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get you on the line with the medic, okay? Stay on the line.
Now, as the caller waits, you can hear what sounds like small children in the background. The Tepe's kids, again, these kids were unharmed.
There's a body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here, and he appears dead.
Okay.
There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Okay, so you can tell he's obviously not breathing or anything.
Yeah.
Is it like kind of like puddle, like, you know, does he look like?
It doesn't look puddled. I can't look.
Okay, all right, understand. Okay, and then when was the last time somebody spoke to him?
Yesterday, I suppose.
Yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
How old is he?
37.
37. Okay. Is he like a drug user or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Just because that's a really young age.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. We're on our way.
Now, that concerned friend saw Spencer's body inside the home.
Caller saying they can hear kids inside. Thought he heard one of them yelling. Now we're getting another call saying there's a body inside. Esther receiving copy.
Who's saying there's a body inside?
When police went inside the home, they did find Spencer dead, as well as his wife. WSYX-TV says that Dr. Tepe was shot multiple times and Monique had at least one gunshot wound to the chest. Police have not said that they have a murder weapon. They do not believe that this is a murder-suicide. Police reportedly recovered a couple 9mm shell casings from the scene. Of course, that is key evidence. That could tell us a lot about the killer, not only as that evidence, but you also have to think if this was someone who knew how police would investigate this crime and how crime scene investigation works, why would they leave those shell casings behind? But I want to talk about what the police chief of Columbus said about that initial response to those 911 calls, because there's some important context here. Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant, it appears, gave one-on-one interviews to local media outlets in Ohio yesterday. We here at Law&Crime, we have reached out to the chief to see if she would like to join us on our show as well. And she said in her interview, this is from 10 TV in Columbus, that they haven't identified a suspect at this point. And as far as the 911 calls, now when I heard that for the first time, where this dispatcher said an officer responded to the Tepe's home when it was just someone calling saying they were concerned because Dr. Tepe didn't show up, I found it a bit confusing as to how the officer didn't find anything, and yet the friend who calls and showed up a short time later ends up getting into the home and finding Spencer's body. But they talk about hearing the Tepe's children inside the house, and my question was, why didn't the officer hear any of that?
Anybody home? There we go.
Now, the chief of police told local media in Columbus that this police officer went to the wrong address, and that is the body cam video that we at Law&Crime obtained on Friday. And in this video, you can hear the officer whistling. He walks up to the door, he knocks on the door of this home, and nobody answers. He checks out the property, and then he leaves. Now, the Columbus Dispatch is reporting that the house that he went to is on Summit Street, and that street runs parallel to the street where Spencer and Monique Tepe lived. Again, it would be about a half hour after this that the 911 caller would say that he found Spencer Tepe's body, and then police responded after that, and then certainly this story went to a completely different level. The chief also told 10 TV that the 911 caller, the one that you hear, where he says he saw Spencer's body, he actually went inside the home and saw the body. So that means that this person had access to the Tepe's home. Now, the bodies of the Tepes were also reportedly found in a second floor bedroom. Now, to this point, it is still unclear what the motive is for these murders. The chief said that police are still trying to track down surveillance video from people who maybe have it on their homes or maybe a business nearby, anything that could end up being a clue to crack this case. But they do say that the public has stepped up and has provided a lot of video, and detectives are combing through every single minute of that. Now, there is a police camera as well that is positioned near the Tepe's home. The chief was asked about that and whether that camera caught anything related to the case. The chief would not answer that question directly, just saying they're continuing to pour through countless tips and evidence and videos as they come in from the public. Now, the chief also addressed that 911 call that was made months earlier in her interview with the Columbus Dispatch, the newspaper. Now, this was the call. It ends up going viral. Fox News Digital puts it out, where it's this girl who is crying, and she's saying that she got into some sort of argument with her boyfriend or husband. She says her man. Again, this was according to Fox News Digital.
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're crying. Do you need police, paramedics, or anything?
No, I'm okay. I promise. I'm just emotional.
Now, we have this audio as well, and it's reportedly this call made on April 15th at 2:45 in the morning. April 15th was a Tuesday, and the call is from this woman. She's emotional about having a dispute. Now, the woman you hear on the phone, she says that she and her man got into it, but she also says that she's okay, so police end up canceling the call to send an officer to the house. The dispatch says that that caller never gave her name either, so there's not really any information about who she is or where she went. But again, the chief said that the voice that you hear is not that of Monique Tepe. In fact, the call also may not have even been made from the Tepe's home, because the chief said in more densely populated areas with multiple cell phone towers, like the neighborhood that the Tepes live in, a call from a cell phone can actually be from within a 30-meter radius. So that call could have been made from somewhere around the Tepe's home, but not in the Tepe's home. Now, the chief also told the Columbus Dispatch that there is no history of calls from the Tepe's address or related to the Tepes. Now, the chief continues to urge patience in this investigation. She says that the department is being as transparent as they possibly can while they're continuing to maintain the integrity of the investigation. Joining us now is retired detective commander with the Chicago Police Department, Will Svilar. Always great to have you on Law and Crime, and you've been great in helping us understand this story as it's continued to unfold. Before we dive into what the chief had to say in these kind of one-on-one interviews it appears she gave to some of the local media outlets there, what is it like right now in the Detective Bureau in Columbus as the days go on?
You know, they're running out all these leads. They're based what I saw in that interview with the chief, they've got some leads. They're going in a specific direction on this. But as a detective, all you want to do is work on your case. You don't want all the distractions from the outside, and that's where your layer of supervision comes in. My job as a supervisor was to give my detectives all the tools they needed so they could do their job, and I'll handle all the other stuff. So they're doing their job, and I think the chief did a good thing by going, and the deputy chief did a good thing by going on TV.
Yeah, because I think you look at, there's just been some silence, and you want police spending more time investigating a crime and hopefully solving a crime than needing to answer questions from the media. But there's just been so much speculation, especially in the online space, with what potentially happened. There were two pieces of information, at least two to me, that stood out that she confirmed through some of the local media stations. It was Channel 10 that said that the Tepes were both found upstairs in a bedroom, so second floor, and that the 911 caller, when you listen to that call and the person who calls back and says there is a body here, that is someone who's actually inside the house. It was unclear before whether maybe they saw through a window or something like that, but they were actually able to go into the home. What does that tell you?
So obviously they know this person. Whoever went into their home knows this person well enough to either know where a key is or know the code to get into the house. So this is a pretty close friend. Now, I was a little confused when I listened to the 911 calls as well, because it sounded like one of the callers said, I hear babies crying, but I can't get in. Now, my question is that the same caller who says they're on the second floor invisible? Because that's kind of contradictory of what happened. If you're in there, you're in there. Are you taking the kids out, removing them from that? I mean, those things are a little up in the air for me, and I wasn't clear on it when I listened to the 911 calls.
Yeah, it was definitely part, because I remember the first time I listened to the 911 call, just even, it kind of goes into the part we'll talk about with the initial officer went to the wrong home apparently. But because you could hear the kids in the background of the call, and I wasn't sure if it was like they were on the door and then this 911 caller's on the outside. So there's still some questions as far as kind of just the layout, and we'll get the context eventually on all of this. Knowing that the Tepes were in their bedroom, because before, when it was like no forced entry, it was like, did someone come to the house? They had some sort of conversation, and maybe they did. But now we're thinking, according to police, 2 and 5 in the morning in a bedroom upstairs. So potentially sleeping when this happened. The fact that she's upstairs as well, it seems they're both shot in the bedroom, but then there's that no forced entry part of it. I guess as you're piecing together the steps of what potentially happened, like how do those pieces of information kind of factor into what you're thinking?
I mean, the no forced entry is a huge part of it. The condition of the home is a huge part of it. The location of the bodies are all huge parts of it. And it would suggest the person had knowledge of, one, how to get into the house. 2, what bedroom that the Tepes were in, possibly. So it kind of suggests that maybe this is somebody that knows the layout of the house, at least, or certainly the code to get in, or they had some kind of relationship with the Tepes. That's what I think.
And, we have the biggest piece of information that we have at this point is that person of interest video, that person walking down the alleyway. They're not looking at the camera, maybe hiding their face from the camera. But police were pretty clear in the interview that the chief gave to the local media that they have tips. Like, they have tips that have come in. Detectives are going through the video right now, trying to figure things out. And then part of me is like, and we don't know if they have more videos of this person of interest, but my question would be like, why not put out more of them if they actually do, if they have as much video as they say that they have? And maybe they don't have, I will say, like, maybe they just don't have any more video of the guy, but if they do, why would you withhold that information?
Good question. If they're withholding that information, there's a reason for it. It's not that they're trying to keep the public in the dark, but maybe they're trying to not tip who they're looking at. So again, to have just one piece of information like that, just one piece of someone walking down the alley behind the residence, it seems like there'd be more. There's cameras everywhere. There's, in the service that I have with my doorbell, Ring doorbell thing, there's a neighborhood app where if somebody walks down the street sideways, somebody is getting on, making a comment saying, hey, there's somebody walking down the street. You know what I mean? So there's got to be more. There's got to be a reason why they're holding up that information. And she kind of alluded to that. She said, there are things we can't tell you. And that would be because it would compromise the investigation.
The other question that I think I would have, which is always one that comes out in news conferences, and maybe it was a strategic move just to kind of do a one-on-one with a journalist for a period of time, as opposed to opening it up. And then you have just people from all over the place in the media asking and shouting questions. The question of, I think the question is, like, is the community safe? is always that question that puts, I think, law enforcement in a really tough position when you ask it as a member of the media, because the question is, do you know who this person is? Was this an isolated incident, or is this a Jack the Ripper situation where this is someone who is just out and about, and you should be afraid if you're Columbus, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, that someone's going to come in your door at night. I'm not trying to sound sensational when I say it, but the fact that they haven't said that that's the situation, also they haven't said that it's a targeted incident. What does that tell you?
Well, you're absolutely right about that. When you talk about, and again, we look back on some of the internet sleuths that are out there saying, hey, listen, there was somebody tried to break into a house, months or a couple of weeks before this, pounding on a door. Is this related? If you don't answer that question for the public, they're going to keep looking into stuff like that. Is there a 911 call from that house back in 2025? All this is speculation because people don't know. And the tightrope you have to walk as a supervisor in this situation, or as when you're in law enforcement, is what do we tell the public? How do we ease the public's mind? And by the way, if you think that there's somebody out there doing these things, you absolutely tell the public that. That's why I believe they've got some very definite leads.
Yeah, and certainly that's the hope now, a week into it. And then you also just feel like, I just keep going back to like, these are all like new build homes. Everybody has, not everybody, but like a lot of those homes. And you could see like a neighbor, whoever took that video, it's a Nest camera. It appears from the video we've seen that the Tepes had a Ring doorbell camera, whatever the brand is, on the front. So you have to feel good. And then there's also the police video that the chief won't confirm whether or not that police camera was operating and captured anything as well. That 911 call, and people can find it online, the most recent one that came out, and it's this person who called police between 2 and 5 in the morning on, they say, just down the street. Fox News Digital had it. And it's this person calling saying that someone was banging on the back door, and then that person goes away. I think Fox had said it was like a 3-minute walk from the Tepes house. We don't know if that's connected to anything related to this, but I also think in like a city, a 3-minute walk can change the type of neighborhood you're in like very quickly. And you're in Chicago. I mean, that's as dense a city as there is, along with New York. Like, how do you take these calls? Maybe it's the 911 call of the crying woman, but that may or may not have been at the Tepes house. Then there's this other call from this person saying someone's banging on their door that was in the area of the Tepes home. Like, how do you sift through that and know that this is actually connected? And then this is just, yes, it's a city, things happen.
Well, you do have to sift through it. And the thing is, you can have pet theories on why things happen, but as an investigator, you have to accept everything else that comes in. And again, this is legwork and it's detective work. You have to run every one of these things out. You have to look into that. Is it likely that someone's banging on doors, checking doors to see if they can go in and do a double murder? No, that's not likely. But you can't dismiss it without looking into it. So you got this whole big puzzle out on your table, right? You're trying to find the corners. You're trying to fill the puzzle in till you get to what the real story is. And you have to do all of it, or else you become myopic in what you're looking at, and you dismiss all these other theories that come in. It's probably not that. There's no way. But you can't do that. You have to look into it.
And on the note where, and this was one of the headlines that came out of the interviews that the chief gave, was that initial phone call where I think it's Spencer's boss says, hey, can you just go check out this address? And the officer goes to the wrong address. And it's not a good look, but also if you believe that they were killed between 2 and 5 in the morning and it's a 20-minute difference, I mean, how big of a deal from the, optics aside, how big of a deal would that actually be to the investigation?
Yeah, as far as the investigation goes, I don't think you change what happened inside that house. But as far as the human aspect goes, you get those kids away from that scene a lot quicker. The kids had to sit in there a little bit longer until somebody went in and found them. So that's the damage in that. You're not going to change the fact that these people are dead. What you are going to change is the fact that these kids had to sit in there for a couple more. I don't know what the time frame is, but at least another period of time where maybe they didn't have to. And again, it happens. Sometimes you go to the wrong address. You don't take a lot of these calls. Check the well-being. You're going to do what he did what he was supposed to do. He went, he looked around, he looked in the yard, he knocked on the door. But that's like saying, listen, I really studied for this math test really hard. Unfortunately, it was a history test. So you did what you were supposed to do, but it was at the wrong place. So, I mean, it doesn't really change the outcome, but it does change the situation for the kids a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think you read the headline. It was like, oh, that's not good, but it's also just not, it's with the timeline. It wasn't as if it seemed like it had happened sadly within the period of time that the officers showed up, that it was something at this point that is believed to have happened overnight. I keep coming back to the shell casings. I know I've asked you about this before, that those were collected on the scene. And I mean, how often is it? I forget if I've asked you this already. How often is it that someone who commits a crime like this would cover their tracks by picking up shell casings? Does that tell you anything about the type of person who would do this, that those would actually be left behind?
Well, yes. I mean, I have run into numerous murders where people don't stick around long enough to pick up their shell casings. If you got a situation where there's shell casings that were removed from the scene, that's someone who knew what they were doing, and that's a totally different thing than a random stranger. That's planned out, and that's executed in a certain way. But most of the time, 99% of the time, the casings are left on the scene because it's something that happens quick and they want to get out of there.
It also seems with the person of interest video, because there is the chance that this was just somebody who maybe they worked the night shift, maybe they were at a bar and the bar closed, and like the reason that they have that kind of interesting gait, lethargic walk, I think, as they're going down the alley, is like they were leaving a bar. But here we are a couple days later, everybody in the country, I feel like, has seen that video. And if that was a person who it's like, oh my gosh, I live down the street, I was just coming back from my friend's house, I did not do this, you would think that that person would come forward to police. And as of the interviews yesterday from police, they still believe that this is a person of interest they want to talk to. What do you read into that part of it, that this still very much seems to be someone that police have not made contact with?
A couple of things. One, you, as a police officer or an investigator in this, you have to find out who that is. You have to do what you can to talk to that person, because you have to talk to that person. Secondly, if you are that person and you had nothing to do with it, I know a lot of the general public want no part of any type of massive investigation. I don't want to be dragged into a police station for 48 hours. I had nothing to do with it. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And I think, you see that a lot more than you'd like to.
Yeah. And we'll see, what happens next. More than a week at this point, a lot of people looking for answers, but to your point, Will, I really hope police have some leads that they're following. I know they're following leads, but that they're really starting to piece this thing together, and we'll see what happens next. Retired Detective Commander Will Svilar with the Chicago Police Department, thank you as always for being with us on Law&Crime. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and now you can find episodes of On the Case on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.